Have you ever talked to someone older than you about money, and they say something like this: "If I had just started investing earlier, things would be very different right now." And when you're younger, you kind of shrug it off. You think, yeah, sure, but I'll figure it out later. Then a few years pass. You start working, bills start showing up, life gets busy, and suddenly you're 30, maybe 35, maybe even 40. And you look back and think, wait, where did all those years go? And this is the strange part. Almost every generation says the same thing. Baby boomers say it, Gen X says it, millennials are starting to say it, and Gen Z is slowly walking into the same trap. Different generations, different economies, different technologies, but the exact same financial mistake. Look, here's the point. The biggest financial mistake people make isn't buying an expensive car. It's not student loans. It's not even credit cards. The real mistake is waiting too long to take control of their money, and the consequences of that one decision are massive. Now, before we get into it, my name is Eugene, and I spend way too much time thinking about wealth and financial freedom. If you're someone who finds it difficult to discipline your finance, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. All right, let's talk about the one financial mistake every generation repeats and why it keeps happening. The lie most people believe about money. Look, most people grow up hearing something like this: work hard, get a good job, and everything will work itself out. Sounds reasonable, right? But here's the problem. Hard work alone doesn't create wealth. Now, before anyone gets upset, let me explain. Hard work can absolutely increase your income, but income alone does not equal wealth. Here's a simple example. There are doctors earning $300,000 a year who are living paycheck to paycheck. At the same time, there are school teachers earning $60,000 a year who retire millionaires. Same country, same economy, completely different outcomes. Why? Because wealth isn't about how much you make, it's about what you do with what you make. And this is where the generational mistake begins. The delay trap. Here's what usually happens. Someone starts their first job. Maybe they make $40,000 or $50,000 a year. And they think, I'll start saving later when I make more money. That sounds logical, but a few years pass. Now they're making $70,000. But life has also become more expensive. Rent is higher. Maybe there's a car payment, maybe student loans. So again, they say, I'll start investing when things calm down. Then life speeds up. Marriage, kids, a mortgage, and suddenly you're 30 or 40 years old. And this is where it gets really interesting, because financially speaking, the first decade of your working life is actually the most important. But it's also the decade when most people invest the least. And the reason has nothing to do with intelligence. It's psychology. The psychology of later. Look, most people know saving for retirement is important, but they don't do it now. Here's what most people don't realize. Humans are incredibly bad at thinking about the future version of themselves. Researchers at UCLA actually studied this. When people think about their future self, the brain reacts almost the same way it reacts when thinking about a stranger. Let that sink in. Your brain treats future you like someone else. So when you say, I'll start saving later, your brain is basically saying, future me can deal with that problem. But eventually, future you becomes present you. And by the time that happens, you've lost the most valuable asset in investing: time. The math that changes everything. Look, let me show you something that completely changes how people think about money. Let's compare two people. Person A starts investing $400 per month at age 22. Person B waits until age 32 to start investing the exact same amount. Both earn an average 8% return in the stock market. By age 65,
Person A ends up with about $1.5 million. Person B ends up with about $650,000. That 10-year delay cost nearly $900,000. Think about that. 10 years. Almost $1 million gone. And here's the crazy part. Person B still invested for 33 years. They didn't start extremely late. They just started a decade later. This is where it gets really interesting. The majority of your wealth from investing doesn't come from the money you contribute. It comes from compound growth. The snowball effect. Imagine rolling a small snowball downhill. At first, nothing happens. It grows slowly, almost painfully slowly. But as the snowball gets bigger, it starts picking up more snow. Then it grows faster, then faster. Eventually, it becomes massive. Investing works the exact same way. Early on, the growth feels boring. You invest for years and it seems like nothing is happening. But eventually, the compounding becomes explosive. Let's look at a simple example. If you invest $500 per month with an 8% return, after 10 years, you'll have about $91,000. After 20 years, you'll have about $295,000. But after 40 years, you end up with about $1.75 million. Here's the key insight. Most of the growth happens in the final years, but those final years only exist if you start early. Now, you might be wondering, if the math is so obvious, why does every generation repeat the same mistake? All right, I know you might be thinking the answer is ignorance, but that's only part of the story. The real reason is lifestyle inflation. As people earn more money, they increase their spending at the same pace. New job, bigger apartment, better car, more subscriptions, better vacations, and suddenly the extra money disappears. According to the Federal Reserve, the average American saves less than 6% of their income. Meanwhile, financial experts recommend saving 15 to 20% if you want to build real wealth. That gap is where the problem lives.
Now look, people love to joke about the latte factor, and sometimes that advice sounds ridiculous. But the concept behind it is powerful. Let's say someone spends $8 per day on coffee. That's about $240 per month. Invested at 8% over 40 years, that money becomes roughly $700,000. Now look, I'm not saying coffee is the problem. The problem is unconscious spending, little habits repeated for decades. And here's what most people don't realize. Wealth is rarely destroyed by one big mistake. It's destroyed by thousands of small ones. Another trap people fall into is believing that making more money will fix everything. But statistics tell a different story. A 2023 Lending Club study found that over 50% of Americans earning $100,000 or more still live paycheck to paycheck. Think about that. Six-figure income, still financially stressed. Why? Because income increases without financial discipline simply leads to higher spending. This is why financial freedom is more about behavior than income. Here's the good news. You don't have to be perfect with money. You just have to avoid the big mistakes. And the biggest one is waiting, because even small investments can become massive over time. For example, investing just $300 per month from age 25 to 65 could grow to roughly $800,000 at 8%. That's not extreme saving. That's about $10 a day. So how do you avoid the mistake every generation repeats? Here are 3 simple steps. 1. Automate your investing. Set up automatic transfers into an investment account every payday, even if it's just $100 per month. Automation removes the emotional decision, and emotions are terrible financial advisors. 2. Increase your savings rate with every raise. Whenever your income increases, increase your savings by at least half of the raise. If you get a $500 monthly raise, invest $250 of it. That prevents lifestyle inflation from stealing your future wealth. 3. Learn how money actually works. Financial education has one of the highest returns of any investment. According to the National Financial Educators Council, the average American loses over $1,800 per year due to lack of financial knowledge. Over a lifetime, that's tens of thousands of dollars. Look,
Building wealth isn't about luck. It's not about winning the lottery, and it's not about being born into money. It's about time, discipline, and consistency. The earlier you start, the easier the journey becomes, and the longer you wait, the harder the climb. That's the mistake every generation makes. They assume they have more time than they actually do. But here's the truth. The best time to start investing was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. So, if this video helped you see money differently, make sure to hit the like button because it helps the channel reach more people. And if you want to learn more about investing, wealth building, and financial freedom, subscribe to the channel. Because on this channel, we talk about money, how it works, and how you can make it work for you. And trust me, once you understand the rules of the financial game, everything starts to change.